New Hampshire, home to the nation's first primary, and the state's largest voting bloc isn't Democratic or Republican. It is undeclared. One unaffiliated voter talked with Alexa Liotta about impeachment, with the public hearings happening this week in Washington.
That's right, Allison. The impeachment inquiry has, of course, dominated the news cycle, but it's also on the minds of voters, especially undecided voters. Here in New Hampshire, roughly 40% of the electorate is registered unaffiliated. So what the witnesses are saying and also how both parties react to the impeachment inquiry really matters here. Allison, I've been speaking to voters in New Hampshire since I got here, and yes, some are dismissive of the impeachment inquiry. They say that they're sick of partisan politics in Washington. Others say that actually the impeachment inquiry came too late and that this close to an election, it's actually up to the voter to decide. But there are, believe it or not, some independent voters who are keeping very close tabs on the impeachment hearings. And because of that, their opinions have actually evolved. Take a listen to what one voter told me in this diner behind me. What made you become an unaffiliated voter?
For me, it was a few different things. One was that I had actually been heavily involved in the Republican Party. I had actually chaired it out in Utah, the county party. And I had my eyes open a lot through that process of seeing that there were problems within the Republican Party. And then I also was the campaign manager for one of the opponents to Jason Chaffetz's Democratic opponent later after I was not any longer with the Republican
So you've really
Party.
gone from both sides.
So I worked with the Democrats. I didn't actually become a Democrat, but I worked with them. I was in an area where there wasn't any power with the Democrats, but in the areas where they did have a lot of power, they had a lot of the same problems that the Republicans had.
It's definitely a distinct characteristic about New Hampshire, but why do you think that there are so many unaffiliated voters here?
Well, I think that they can see that a lot of the problems are partisan in nature, and a lot of times you can't really get at the truth because you're so caught up in your own party's talking points and just trying to help the party rather than help the country. And so I think people here say, no, I'm going to vote on the person, I'm going to vote on the ideas that I believe are right, and I'm not going to be influenced by the party.
How do you react to the impeachment inquiry going on in Washington as an unaffiliated voter?
I know that when they started talking about impeachment very early on, I probably personally would fall into the category of people who kind of thought this is partisan, this is not a good idea, we need to move on to just letting the election decide what happens rather than having the inquiry. But I'm also one of the people who now, with the latest allegations, and more saying, well, you know, it looks like there's some wrongdoing and we should be having an inquiry and we should be looking into this.
Does it impact you that people are publicly testifying? I mean, what are some of those allegations that you think this is over the line, this person should be impeached and potentially removed from office?
Well, I think when the transcript came out, you know, you can see it on paper. It's very solid. It's not just people making wild accusations. And when you have solid evidence that the funds had been withheld and those types of things, then it's a lot more concrete and, you know, it's easier to see.
Are there any candidates that really resonate with you for 2020?
I actually have not made up my mind. I don't have a particular candidate I'm planning to vote for. I'm still trying to decide how I'm going to vote. I'm going to be watching very carefully all of the debates, going to continue to go out and see candidates when they come. Are you going to continue watching the impeachment inquiry? I'm going to continue watching that. I'm going to be very careful, and I may
You'll be watching the hearings. Yeah.
I'm watching everything, and I may not make my decision until, you know, very close to the election, because I think it depends on so many issues as to who I will finally decide to cast my ballot for. As you heard just there, Allison, she was a Republican and then started working with Democrats, never actually joined the Democratic Party, and is now a proud unaffiliated voter in New Hampshire. But if House Democrats want to win in the court of public opinion throughout the impeachment inquiry, these are the types of voters that it seems like they need to really win over.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.